My name is Leonardo, and today I would like to talk about the Scrum Master interview. But before we start, how many of you here are involved in the hiring process in your organizations? Can you raise hands? Just keep the hands up. How many of you that are involved that are not managers or directors or so on? Who are managers? Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's gonna be a good discussion about that. So today I would like to focus on the Scrum Master interview, but from the interviewer point of, or for the interview side. Before we start, there you go. So Scrum is the most used agile framework in the market. The version 1 just released the latest agile report, and it states that 58% of the market that is applying or adopting agile is using Scrum as their main framework. This number can reach up to 70-ish if we also sum up with the Scrum XP and Scrum Bun. That doesn't, not surprisingly, last year LinkedIn ranked the Scrum Master role among the top 10 most promising jobs in America. If we just search on LinkedIn for the word keyword Scrum Master, there will be around 13,000+ roles open at this moment, just on LinkedIn. If we go for other websites, the number is even bigger. That means the Scrum Master is playing a very important role within our organizations, in our transformations. I do believe that the Scrum Master role has evolved throughout the time. So Scrum is about 22 years old since it was created. And throughout the time, I do believe that the Scrum Master role evolved. Why? Initially, we had pretty much the baby boomers, the Generation X in the market. And throughout this time, those 20 years, the Generation Y came into the market in our environments. And now we have the millennials coming into our markets with 18, 20 years old. This means that we have different working styles, generations with different values in our organizations. That brings a lot of complexity in terms of relationship and working together. I do see this with good eyes because it's diversity, but in fact increases the complexity that we have to deal with as a Scrum Master. And also our organizations are in a different state on their agile journey. Some are quite new, the other ones are older and coming up with big transformation, and this brings a lot of challenges. And we as Scrum Masters, we have to have technical knowledge, but to deal with this scenario, we need to have a lot of soft skills. And my question is, how are we hiring those people to our organization? How are we validating the soft skills? How can you do that? So, commonly there are 3 main steps during our interview process. The first one, we have the demand, let's hire a Scrum Master. Then we come up with a job description, usually made by the leadership or the HR. And this job goes out in LinkedIn or our website. We get applicants in. The HR will do the pre-screening, select some applicants, discuss with mostly, we can see here, managers and leadership team. We're going to bring people in for the interview. But what I want to flag here is that pretty much we do conversation, or a conversation basis. That I ask question, he answers, or she answers, and we have these dynamics. But how can we validate this? Are we validating soft skills? We can say that we do things, but do we really do it, what we are saying? So from now on, don't dare to say that this is wrong or this is right. I do agree with this structure. What I'm gonna talk from now on is some ideas and some things that we should look after to perhaps improve this process and bring better Scrum Masters to our organization, to have the transformation or the change that we really want. Starting off by the job description. So, in my opinion, the job description is the business card of your company for your applicants. It's like a sales pitch. It's the first time that a good applicant will have contact with your organization. That's important to have this properly formulated or created. And, and the first thing that I've realized, taking a look in a lot of Scrum Master jobs published in LinkedIn, is a misunderstanding around job title and role. So, Scrum Master is a role within the Scrum framework. We can use this as a job title, but not necessarily we should use. I particularly do believe that using it brings way more clarity. But the problem is start mixing the Scrum Master role with some job titles that may conflict with the idea of Scrum Master. And I can give you some examples. Those are all extracted from LinkedIn. Okay? Here we're looking for Scrum Master and Product Manager. Usually, to bring clarity, well, Scrum Master will work with a more servant leadership, whereas that usually the product manager comes with a more command control approach. And in Scrum, the project manager was spread out, the responsibilities spread out between the dev team, the Scrum Master, and the PO. The fact to put Agile in front of the word doesn't solve the problem. So having a Scrum Master and a project manager may show that you're understanding what a Scrum Master should be or we should look for, may be a bit mixed up or messy and can repel good applicants. The second one, Scrum Master Product Owner. So there's no prescription in Scrum guide saying that we can share roles. However, this is the configuration of the roles that we definitely should avoid to have the same person being the Scrum Master and the Product Owner. There's a conflict of interest, and it's impossible that one person. There will be always a bias where being a Scrum Master and a Product Owner is not like a hat that I put on and I put off. I will always have a bias to one of them, and we are losing a lot of the benefits that Scrum brings to us having a Scrum Master and a Product Owner. So again, understanding the role of Scrum Master, and I'll cover more about this later on. The same applies to the Business Analyst, the Scrum Master. It's pretty much the same, the idea of the Product Owner, and Business Analyst is a job title. So it's not a role in the Scrum. Here, this one is nice. Scrum Master, Assistant Manager, who was here for the workshop that Barry just delivered before the session. Do you remember the 8 misunderstandings about Scrum Master? Which one would be this one?
Boss of the team.
Just the boss of the team or the chairman that will get information and reach to someone else. It's important, this understanding. And the last one is the Agile Scrum Master. Scrum is an Agile framework. The fact putting Agile in front is redundant. Again, bringing clarity. The job title is the first thing that an applicant will read. Be clear in this sense. The next, in the job description, we have responsibilities. And here again, it's gonna, for those who were in the Barry's workshop, you can start linking to the misunderstandings. The first one example that I got all extracted from LinkedIn. Okay, the Scrum Master should report the burn down daily and ensure that the team is achieving the commitments every sprint. So, are we looking really for a Scrum Master or for perhaps a project manager that will report things. Where is the self-organization in the team here if someone is acting in a command control approach? Again, things like that can repel good applicants. They may see this is, perhaps this is not the environment that I would like to work with because the environment or the organization is not understanding what a Scrum Master should be. The other example, organize and prioritize tasks. Should the Scrum Master do this? I feel definitely as Mel here, like a project manager, an old approach. Lately, that's nice as well, I like. Working according to Agile, but he needs to handle the product backlog and also with product backlog requirements for the development and test teams. Not even cross-functional, one of the core things of Scrum. So, and again, all of them have like Scrum Master, the job title, or Scrum Master Product Manager, things like that. But I'm not just finger pointing, I'm bringing some problems and I'm gonna bring some ideas how to perhaps be clear. I just got this on my feed in LinkedIn and I love this. And I brought this to you, folks. It's from Jen. He was extremely honest, direct, and clear on the message. See here, he's looking for a Scrum Master. 3 years of experience. He's gonna work with SAFe framework, okay? It's far from perfect. We don't need to lie. Even the best of the most agile organization in the world, there will be problems and it's far from perfect. So let's be honest, I like that. So you're gonna deal with waterfall. Most of our organizations are coming from waterfall. You have to have thick skin to deal with that. Like that. You also need emotional intelligence to know when to push and when to compromise. And so, again, it depends. Sometimes we have to push, sometimes we have to leave that in favor of other things. You have room to change, but you have to create it. That's really, I see one thing that Scrum Masters should do a lot. And we see a lot of that the organization are all disruptors, and he's being very honest, it's 3 out of 10, but it's not for Scrum Master. So I did like that. I do believe that he's being honest. It's one of being open, transparent in its things that are under the Scrum values or the Agile values. Also, we have a good material or a good source to start understanding better what a Scrum Master role is about. And for those who attended the workshop just before this, I already mentioned 3 times, the 8 Stances of Scrum Master. This is a really good work that Barry has developed. He has a workshop, he has a white paper on the internet, so you can access this. And basically, nothing is perfect. So we are always learning. But what we need at least to try is to move from this model, okay, from being the boss, from being the chairman or the assistant manager or whatever, to more, this model here. Whereas Scrum Master is going to be a facilitator, he's going to be a mentor, a coach of the team, people, and the organization. He's going to work removing impediments, but not blockers. So the team has to be able to solve the problems within their boundaries, but perhaps working the impediments outside of the team boundaries, enterprise constraints, and so on. So I won't go too deep here. Barry has a very good work on this. I do advise you guys to read about that. Okay, so the next step on the 3 main points, how are we hiring, is the pre-screening. I do believe that the HRs know better than anyone how to pre-screen, but the only thing that I'll bring as an idea to start discussing the suitable applicants with the team. And with the team here, I mean, if we know that the Scrum team that the Scrum Master will work with, I would say to involve them. If we don't know who, the Scrum Master will be work with. So let's try to involve the people that is going to be working with Scrum Master, like other Scrum Masters, managers, POs, people that he will interact more. And I'll discuss this why. But Eric covered this in the morning. It's what I call accountability. Feel accountable for the decisions. If we want self-organized teams and bring the empowerment that we always mention, we have to bring them autonomy to decide their future. You may say, oh, this can take a lot of time, right? But a simple thumbs up, thumbs down, the HR can come to a room in 15 minutes, say, look, I have this applicant, those are the main points that I gathered during the pre-screening, and the team just thumbs up, thumbs down. We can have a quick discussion, and then, okay, let's bring this person to the interview or not. Simple like that, should be straightforward. And then the next step, the interview itself. I do believe that we can and should have the conversation, and here we can have different steps like the HR and management, the technical interview, and so on. But what I would add to this is the trial day. And I mentioned the soft skills. They are very important for a Scrum Master. We deal a lot with people, organizations, and so on. But I see that it's very hard to validate or assess them in a conversation. In a conversation, anyone can answer anything. But see people in action is where we can really get an idea whether that person will fit our organization or not. And in this sense, we can have a perfect applicant or a perfect employee, but based on our context, perhaps we need someone stronger coaching stakeholders, or someone stronger in delivering training or mentoring, coaching. It depends. So what we can do is to bring a trial day to assess what we need the most of a Scrum Master. And here are some ideas. Why don't we ask him to or her to run a sprint planning or a retrospective? And like here again, if we can involve the team that this person will work with, I do believe that's very good. And I'll explain later on why. If we don't know, let's do a simulation. Let's not get surprised. Sorry. So let's tell this person in advance that he's going to be facilitating a retrospective, but let's bring some elements where this person needs to react or adapt on the fly in real time, and there we can assess how we or the applicant is doing. Other example, participate in a backward refinement, prioritization game. Let's suppose that we're going to have one Scrum Master for 5 teams. What is the criteria that this person used to prioritize the list of things that he or she needs to do? Let's suppose he comes back from holidays and we have this amount of items. How would you prioritize it? And see what the criteria that this person is using. Is he using push out louder? What is more important? What is the most impact within business in terms of people? You can see this. You can now assess this in a prioritization game. Simple and straightforward. Again, perhaps if your organization is coming from a waterfall and there's a lot of stakeholders that always worked in a traditional project management style, why don't you come up with an idea or a simulation to coaching stakeholders, or how he coaches the questions that he asks, and so on. Again, presentation in the workshops I mentioned, and finally we also need to have metrics to support our teams and organizations. Why don't we ask this person to create a dashboard with metrics that he or she would think that's useful to start off to assess our improvements, or how are we getting how we are performing in our organizations. These are some examples. Definitely we can come up with many other ideas. One thing that it doesn't happen much is after the interview. After the interview, again, involve the team. We could ask them to come back, or the HR could facilitate that. So come back to a room after those simulations, and we can ask a few questions, like, how would you rate the candidate? 1 to 5, simple. Did he or she do something that impressed you positively and negatively? Again, the HR can gather this information during this conversation. Would you consider to have this guy as your teammate? And should we make an offer or not? And all of these data gathered during this meeting, again, should be straightforward, thumbs up, thumbs down, and quick and straightforward discussions. With this information, with all this data, and I do believe that we should use for feedback. And mainly if the candidate is not hired. So you may think that the legal department will freak out because of that, but one of the pillars that we have in agile environments in Scrum is openness and respectful. So we should respect the candidate and tell him or her how she or he could do better, or develop some things that we consider needed for our organization, that in the future she can be a good fit for us. So giving feedback is, again, it's a very important element of our environments. So we should have this in our organizations. We should bring this to the hiring process as well. It's gonna say a lot about our culture, okay? It's just how to word that. We have to be careful to avoid legal problems, but I do believe that's possible.
So if some of the team members vote yes and, for example, 2 team members vote no, what do you do? Do you have a rule that if one is voting no, you reject, or do you try to come to a consensus?
So she's asking if we have difference in between the votes, thumbs up, should we hire or not? Discussions should be followed, the reasons why not. And then we can do another round again and find an agreement. But I believe that after a couple of rounds, if still people say no, I'll say that.
Although
no.
the majority may be yes, if you still have no towards after a few rounds, you will go with no.
Possibly.
Okay.
You can assess with your colleagues, but I wouldn't go, in my opinion, because of this. Why I am saying to involve the teams? To raise the autonomy and accountability within the teams. If people were part of a decision, they will feel accountable for the success of the decision. Okay? That's why if 3 or 4 decided no and we still hire him or her, those 3 or 4 most likely won't engage to help this person to succeed in the organization, because they said, I don't think that it will be a good fit in any way they hired. So the fact to bring people and teams to decide to make these collaborative decisions is to raise the sense of accountability. So I will engage to succeed because you joined, I helped the decision, I was part of the decision to bring you on board. I have great chance to engage and help you out to succeed in the organization. And also, it gives the idea of autonomy. If we want to empower teams, we have to give them autonomy to decide with who they want to work with. We can say a lot of words, but if our actions don't match with our words, it's just nothing. There's no meaning. Okay, it's pointless. So this process that I've mentioned with these ideas, I do believe that the outcome will increase the autonomy and accountability within the organization. Just moving towards the end, certifications. This is a subject that can cause long discussions. I do see pros and cons about certification, but in this case, in the case of hiring people, considering the certification as a matter of being good or not, I think it's dangerous. I do believe that for Scrum Master, the PSM, Professional Scrum Master 3, is most likely the hardest certification that you can find in the market. But it doesn't mean that someone with PSM3 will be a good facilitator or a coach. Technically, he knows a lot, but in action is the only way that we're going to validate and assess, yes, this guy is good or this girl is good or not. That's why I do believe that we should have a trial day. Certifications are good, but they are dangerous if we only consider, okay, this person has a certification, she's able to do the work. And then my final thoughts, I do see the HR in a more supportive role, involving the teams and more people around the organization, and bring this sense of autonomy and accountability. Again, I mentioned collaborative decision will raise the sense of we own our destiny, so we are deciding or helping out to collaborate or to decide who will work with us, and greater is the chance to engage with the success of that person. If we want to become more agile or have our transformation, we need to bring people today, or we need people today that will bring us where we want to be tomorrow. So the better or most capable people that we bring in, the greater are the chances that we're going to succeed on our agile journey or adopting Scrum. And this is a quote. For me, I do believe that the transformation that we are looking for starts with the hiring process, bringing good people on board, and these people will help out to spread what we need, the knowledge and the changes that we need. And that's pretty much it. We have some time for questions, if you do have. Yes? Just a second. There we go. That's the roll. Yeah, so basically this one here was more focused start. Yeah. The whole process depends. Companies have different internal process, and I do believe that whoever is Scrum Master in an organization, one of the things that we should be working with is to create other people, other Scrum Master, POs, and dev teams. So, as a servant leader, I have to spread out the knowledge and bring more people on board. So internally, I believe that it's a bit different the case. It's more how we decide to do internally, to be honest. This is more focused externally, bringing people from outside to inside. I do believe that we as Scrum Master should be coaching other people to become a Scrum Master as well internally. And then how you do this process internally, it depends on the organization. But this was more focused externally, bringing people from outside. Any other question? One more and then we finished.
Okay. In the screening phase, you get a candidate that you think is very good. You show it to your team says no. What do you do? Do you still give him a chance?
I do believe, my opinion is, if during the screening the team said no, we have to gather the reasons why and provide feedback saying, sorry, we don't think that you got a good fit because of, well, the word. We assess some things, and we do believe that there are some development things or things that we need, and unfortunately we don't see on your profile. Again, the wording is very important, and we have to be careful with the legal consequences.
What about the flip side? If somebody doesn't seem to be very professional but looks like fun and the team enjoys him? How would you explain then to the team why you wouldn't hire him? Or are you going to hire him?
The team should decide. And a part of the decision, there will be people from leadership as well putting the decision. I'm in favor of the team deciding.
Okay.
If they will make a mistake,
Fair
as
enough.
anyone makes.
Fair enough.
We don't hire only brilliant people. But I would encourage them to own their destiny, fulfill their future. Not sure if I have time for more questions. Okay, one more.
Hi, thanks. You mentioned about the certification. Yes, it's a bit of controversial arena altogether. But the HR person who is calling a candidate, he is not much technically savvy. He's not aware of the experience from the IT side of it. So he or she uses the certificates as a filter. So the actual people who are not certified, they never get a call. So even they don't have the chance to put them in the interview.
Okay, let me try to be clearer. I do believe that certifications can help out to assess the technical knowledge, but not the soft skills, if I can summarize that. And I'm not against, I'm a vegetable hunter, I have many certifications, and I do like, so I'm not against.
Me too.
I have many, but I do believe that doesn't assess your soft skills. Technically, possibly you sorted, you have a good knowledge, but I would like to see you in action. And that's different. To assess your other part. Possibly if you have a PSM3, technically I don't have doubts that you have knowledge, the technical knowledge. But seeing you in action, I'm going to assess your soft skills. I think that's it. If you want to talk more about that, just pop up. I'm going to be around there. And thanks a lot for your time.